Hello and welcome to another in the series of Ladies Who Make Money Whilst Travelling. I'm Debra Sofia Magdalene, and today I'm delighted to welcome Karen to the call. So Karen, welcome. If you could just give us your full name, how old you are, and where in the world you are at the moment.
Absolutely. It's very nice to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm Karen Kennaby, and I'm 61 years old, and I am currently in the UK.
Lovely. And so you travel with your business, and do you want to tell us a bit about your business and the travel that you've done and how you actually make an income through that lifestyle?
Sure. So at the moment, at the beginning of this year, I created Unique and Exquisite Events, which really pulls together everything that I've done over 30 years of being an entrepreneur. My event management experience, hotel management experience, love of travel, core values of joy, delight and connection. And what I do is I create small, unique and exquisite events specifically for women, most of whom are over 50. And we go to places that most people have never heard of, or they've certainly not done the sorts of things that we're going to do in those locations. So very juicy, very feminine, very gorgeous.
And what inspired you to set this business up?
It came about, I was on a retreat in January over in California. And I said, what I really want to do is just create unique and exquisite events. And everyone just went quiet. It's like, oh, it's that, isn't it? And so that's how it was born. And I just thought, well, let's stick with that name because it's perfect. It does what it says on the tin. And it's anything from a lunch somewhere, you know, either new or not well known or Michelin star, you know, anything like that, through to short breaks, which I called a break from the norm, through to longer breaks, such as going to Morocco to the Valley of the Roses, which we did in May, you know, which are longer, typically a week.
Now you were a full-time house and pet sitter for a while. Do you want to tell us about that and how you started that lifestyle? What prompted you to do that?
It was one of these classic cases of necessity is the mother of all invention. And my husband had been out of work for 2.5 years. We lived in a beautiful apartment in Blackheath, just outside London. And I said, this is ridiculous. You know, we need to find another way of doing things. And so we just took a leap of faith. And I just knew that whatever would come, and I just started seeing references to house sitting and people mentioning it, and I thought, okay, let's go for it. And at the time I didn't realize that nearly all house sitting involves pet sitting. So we registered with one of the main sites and we did a video and we started getting lots of attention, became 5-star sitters very quickly. And that's how it happened. And we ended up either together or just me being house sitters around the world for 18 months to 2 years.
And how did you find that lifestyle?
Pardon?
How did you find that lifestyle?
I loved it for a long time. Really loved it. And it was so interesting that our first time was in France. And we went to rural France for 4 months. And we had lots of chickens and ducks and cats, 2 gîtes to look after, which tied in with my hospitality background, of course. And I'd never looked after poultry, and so that was fascinating. And the ducks gave birth to ducklings very quickly. And I became incredibly maternal and was watching over them the whole time. But it tapped into something very deep in me that I didn't realise had got squashed. And I think I hadn't realised how much the stress of John being out of work had affected me, and it was just perfect. And so it was a wonderful start.
Chickens are so funny, aren't they? You know, I look after chickens as well, and they have such funny personality.
Oh, they're hilarious. They're hilarious, and the ducklings were so cute. And yeah.
So when you started as full-time house and pet sitters, what did you do with all your belongings?
We literally gave notice on our apartment and put everything into storage. So, you know, we really did go for it. This wasn't you know, 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing. We really went for it. And became global nomads, as you are, you know. And there's something very liberating, isn't there, about not having a permanent home. And for a long time, I really loved that. We were traveling around, and because we got up to 5-star status very quickly and everything, I found I could pick and choose where we went. And so, you know, if I wanted to go and see my son in Bristol during half term, I would find us a sit near there. And if I wanted somewhere specific over the Christmas period that was large enough I could have the family to stay, I'd find that. And so there was this fun challenge as well of finding the right one. And so I loved it.
That's fabulous. And did you ever have any gaps in between them?
Yes, we did. And then we typically would stay with family or friends, but that worked out quite nicely because it meant we were actually catching up with them anyway, because they weren't long. We really did. And when I say we, I mean, managed the diary really, really well, and managed to find, you know, the right thing at the right time pretty much all the time.
Yeah, I'm finding that as well, that actually one leads on to another and on to another. And I don't know about you, but I didn't like to plan too far in advance. I liked to just have the next one, or be open to the possibilities.
And actually, and then you're open to the possibility of that extending as well, aren't you? Because we found that happened a couple of times, that people extended how long they wanted us, especially if they themselves were working abroad, which was the case with the couple in France. They were working abroad, so, you know, opportunities arose for them, so we stayed on for longer and things like that.
So whilst you were house and pet sitting, did you create an income whilst you were doing that?
I did. So I'm a life coach. I've been a life coach for 15 years. I've been a mentor for more like 30. And so it's very easy for me to work wherever I am. And in fact, even with what I'm doing now with Unique and Exquisite Events, it's very easy for me to do it from wherever I am. All you need is a computer and a decent broadband connection, the latter not always being quite so easy to find. So I work primarily with expat women in my coaching. So in fact, the fact that I was in different countries tied in perfectly, because I've been an expat in the Middle East, I've been an expat in America. I know the issues, and I know what it's like living away from your friends and family.
Yeah. So what challenges have you experienced with that lifestyle?
Well, broadband. Broadband, definitely. So having to get into going to a local cafe culture to try and find somewhere. And sometimes the nomad lifestyle can leave you feeling a little bit rootless and a little bit homesick. And in fact, that's what brought me back eventually. I did start feeling homesick. I was doing a lot of sitting on my own. And I mean, some fabulous, fabulous ones, you know, 5-star, 5-bedroom villas with full-time housekeeper and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So really amazing. But I was starting to feel homesick and I needed a base again. So I think it's a very good way to explore what you need yourself. And I think a lot of stuff comes up. You learn hidden depths maybe in yourself. You learn how you respond to different things. I learned to look after dogs that I would have previously been scared of. My absolute favourite of all the dogs we've looked after to date is a Rottweiler. And I was scared of Rottweilers before, and they said it's okay, you know, he's trained and the family's trained and he's a big soppy thing. And he thought he was a lapdog. He weighed more than me. He thought he was a lapdog, and I adore him, absolutely adore him. So, you know, there are these hidden bits of joy that just come out of it. So many. I mean, three core values, as I said, are joy, delight and connection. Boy, oh boy, does it play into that.
Did you find that it put any challenges, any strains on your relationship?
No. Well, I suppose I'm saying no. When we were in France, I was still doing my coaching. You know, I was not treating it as a holiday. You know, I was treating it as a new way of living. My husband was treating it as a holiday. I didn't appreciate that terribly. So, so that put a few strains on our relationship, I suppose. But, you know, that's it really.
Yeah. And would you recommend this lifestyle to other people?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, if you get a calling or a sense to do it, just do it. And you don't have to go all in the way you and I have. You know, you can put yourself up there and you can test it with doing weekends or weeks or, you know, months even. But, you know, test it and try and see whether you like it. Because I think it is phenomenally freeing. And there's something about being able to say, you know, you've lived here and you've lived there and you've done this and you've done that. It's all wonderful added life experiences. So yeah, I'd say go for it. I mean, I said weekends there. I actually don't like doing weekends. It's not long enough to get to know the pets.
Yeah.
And so the only time we or I will do weekends is if it's for a family that we've already sat for.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got 2 repeat sits coming up, and I'm really looking forward to it. They come like family members, don't they?
They really do, yes. And it's funny because I was saying about Ozzy the Rottweiler being my favourite, and then the other end of the extreme, my other favourites are 2 little Maltese called Lola and Coco, and you know, just so adorable because you can just munch them up.
So through this lifestyle that you've been having, what have you learned about yourself, Karen?
Well, I already knew I was very resourceful, and so it reinforced that. I think it helped me fall back in love with myself, actually, because I'd got very stressed. And you know, when you're living in or near a big city, there is a different energy. Living in the countryside for a while and looking after pets, you just, you know, it brings the love back, you know, and that love obviously is for yourself, for what you're doing, for those pets. And so I think that was one of the really big things for me. Resourcefulness, yeah, I've always been a resourceful girl. And so that, it did certainly reinforce that. And I'm not easily thrown by things. I think if you are timid and you don't handle unexpected things very well, it's probably not the lifestyle for you. But if you're prepared to give it a shot, and you know you've got to go down and change the oil cans in the cellar, and you know there might be some big spiders and all of that kind of stuff. If you're not thrown by that, then I would say go for it. And I think it gives you more than you can possibly imagine. I really do.
How have you adapted from being free for so long to now being in the same location?
I think I was very ready for it. I actually got sick last year. I went down. I didn't realise when I came back, but I'd gone down with pneumonia. So, you know, when I say I was homesick, I was actually physically sick as well. And so I desperately needed a home base. I needed a cocoon to just stop. So I stayed with my parents for a little while, but then we got a home again, and I was ready for that. And I have actually responded really well. I wasn't sure how well I would respond, but I've responded really well, and I've enjoyed it. And of course, I've created a life where I travel so much, and so I've created the lifestyle I want. I'm still getting the travel. I go to Italy next week to host an event in Frascati in Rome. In October, I'm going to Cadaqués, hidden away in Spain, where Dali made his home, to run an event, you know. And so I've created that regular travel to give me that travel hit through a different way, and that's working well.
That's fabulous, because now you're making money whilst travelling in a different way. It's your
Exactly. Yes. And it's lovely because, you know, unexpected things have come out of that too, because I thought it would all be me creating the events and putting them out there and offering them. But a number of the people that I was speaking to about the Valley of the Roses one earlier this year said, well, would you partner with me? Would you help me create? So it's another dimension. And so I love it. You know, it's opened up unexpected benefits, and it's just being open, isn't it? You know, when you're open to whatever comes and when you're in flow, it just works out beautifully.
Magic happens.
So magic happens, yes. And you get twinkly stars above you when you're on the video.
Oh, so Karen, what would be your top tips for anybody who's considering this lifestyle?
I think, you know, think through why you want to do it. You know, are you looking to, I would say, don't view it as a free holiday. I think a lot of people look at house sitting as a free holiday. It's not. It's an exchange, and you are there to look after the pets. As I say, most of the time, and I'm sure you probably found this too, most of the time you are looking after pets. And that, in fact, becomes, I'm just going to plug in my MacBook, that becomes, you know, the really special part of it very often. But do bear in mind that, you know, some owners will only want you to be away from those pets for a certain number of hours, you know, depending on what they are. So you need to be, I think, be realistic, and also be sure about what you will and won't accept, and you really talk to the owners. Definitely Skype or Zoom with the owners before you commit, because you need to know what they're like and have a better understanding. I think that is a huge one. And then make sure you understand the parameters in terms of what you're allowed to go and do while you're there, how much you have to be in the house, and then basic understandings like things like food and drink. Are they going to leave the fridge and freezer stocked for you? One of my clients is amazing. She stocks up the wine the wine store before I go, and when she extends, she even rang to say, "Are you still okay for wine?" So you know, but things like that are actually important. You need to know, you know, can you help yourself to anything in the cupboards and the fridge and the freezer or not? And you know, so I think it's that, getting those basic understandings there.
Do you have a pre-qualification questionnaire that you send to them?
I do, yes. And, you know, I think I often talk it through rather than just send it. But yes, I do, because some people think it's very unrealistic.
Yeah, I do that as well, and it's quite detailed, but the level of detail that I put into it means that you only can have a carefree holiday, or, you know, the time away if they were on business.
Yeah.
You know, things like, I remember doing a house sit and then all the electric went off, and then the central heating wouldn't come back on. And it's even things like what hours need programming into the central heating system.
Yes.
No, because like people don't think about these things until they actually happen.
Absolutely.
So I find adding things.
Sorry?
I find that I'm adding things to my form as things come up. Then it can preempt.
Yes. And things like the vet. I mean, obviously having the vet details is a standard one, but, you know, what about fees? And, you know, how much do they want you to just take matters into your own hand and go and get things done? And how much do they want you to ask them, or, you know, liaise with them beforehand? And I think as well, another thing is how much contact do they want while they're away? And it's a bit like, you know, child sitters, babysitters. Some people need that contact to know, I've got one where they like photos every day, and they like a quick conversation every day. Others, they go and that's it, and they don't want to have any contact unless there's anything to discuss. So it's all of these things, isn't it, that over time you get to know, but with a little bit of thought and preparation, you can come up with a pretty good list straight away. And some of the house sitting sites do have some good lists and templates to start off with.
Yeah. Karen, how can people connect with you?
Well, email is karen@karenkennaby.com. I'm just in the process of creating a gorgeous new website for Unique and Exquisite Events, but the best place to find me is in our Facebook group, which is nice and easy to find. It's Unique and Exquisite Events with Karen Kennaby. So come and join us there. It's fun, we post different things about what we're doing and tap in to find out what each other finds exciting and unique, and some of that's travel, some of it's food, some of it's things, but I really do feel now that experiences are the new currency, so there tends to be a lot more about experiences. So yeah, come and join.
And just to end off, is there anything else that you want to add that you've not already added that's going to add value?
No, I think just go for it. To be honest, if someone's listening to these interviews, they've obviously, they're thinking about different ways of living and different ways of doing things. And you really can have a very fulfilling life, living all over the place. And so if it's appealing to you, just do it. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't go around in your head too much. We tend to blow away the simplicity. It's easy. Go on a site, set yourself a profile, and do it. So,
Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, and one other thing, I suppose. Initially, you're going to need references, and I know that sometimes worries people. When I first look at it, I thought, oh, but we haven't actually done it. Think of friends and family members that you've sat for. Not in any formal context, but you might have looked after their house for a while, or they might have been out and so you ended up on your own. Well, you've looked after their house then. Anything really, and just lots of personal references, people saying that you're basically a good sort, and you can build up that way.
Perfect. And most of mine have actually come through word of mouth. I'm not on any house sitting sites at all.
Aren't you? Yes.
And they've all come through word of mouth, and people just, contact me and check my availability, and so you don't have to be on the sites.
No, it kick-started us until we got, the referrals and the repeats and everything. It kick-started us quite nicely. But yeah, absolutely. There are other ways of doing it, aren't there?
Well, thank you so much for taking time today to
share
your gems with us.
Yeah.
Ladies, if you're watching this and you want to check out more interviews, if you go on to Mastery Path's YouTube channel, there's a playlist on there called Ladies Make Money Whilst Travelling. So good luck in your journeys, and we'll see you again another time. Bye.
Bye.